Well, how you doing tonight? Welcome back to the Red Shoe Diaries. I'm hoping you've had a great week. Uh, we've had a little bit of everything this week, weather-wise, it looks like. Heat, cold, got us a little rain. There, top chance storms coming through tonight, so I figure we'll see a little lightning, thunder rattling the windows and shaking the house probably if a good storm comes through. Around here, you never know what you might wind up with. And had a good day. Went down, spent a little time with the granddaughter, daughter, son-in-law. Went to church with them. And then went in their house. We had a little bite to eat. They had a few things they was doing this evening, so had a good afternoon, wandered around. And it always makes you feel good. We went and after the service walked over there, and granddaughter comes out of the nursery they have there. That's Papa. So when Papa get you, get me Papa. So went out there to the vehicle and started leave from there. She's like, well, Papa needs to come to my house. Well, Papa's coming here. You come to my house? Yeah, I'm coming to your house, but Papa's got to drive his truck to your house. So it always makes you feel good, though. They want you to come hang out with them. Sit around with them, play a little bit, and eat a little bit, and watch them. Think about, man, I'd like to have that much energy. And so, like I said, it's been a good week. Can't complain. Went grocery shopping, and I was laughing when I walked in because just had 5 bags. Wasn't really that much in them, but that was $70 worth. You're like, oh well. And no, they wasn't no Cokes, candy bars, potato chips, nothing like that there in them. Sort of necessities like stuff. But you know, that's gotta have a little fuel in that body or you're not going nowhere, folks. That's just simple as life. As you get older, you watch a little more of that, what you eat. At least you should be, or you try to be. But early this week, I got to thinking about different sayings and stuff from back in the day, growing up, different ones you heard. My aunt's, one of her favorite ones was burnt toed chicken is afraid of the fire. And yeah, what does that mean? Well, years ago they'd build outside fires and stuff. Maybe if they's killing hogs, they's rendering lard, such stuff as that. Or maybe they might be doing some type of cooking, but anyway, you'd have ashes and coals in there later and look like it's burnt out. Well, lots of times your chickens would go on scratching that, looking for stuff to eat. Well, every now and then they liable to find a live ember. They'd scratch and it'd burn that toe. Once it burnt that toe, that chicken didn't want to get in that, scratch around in that ashes no more. And that's where that come from. It applies to us. Sometimes you get into stuff you shouldn't get into and you get burnt, hurt, whatever you want to call it, and you decide, well, I don't want to do that no more. And of course, there's sometimes people try it again. But if you keep doing the exact same thing, it fails every time. You might want to try something a little different next time, folks. There's one about don't count your chickens till the eggs hatch. Meaning, sometimes you might have a dozen eggs there. And hen might be sitting on them, but that might not be but 4 or 5 that hatch. The rest of them don't hatch, although you're thinking, I've got 12 eggs. I'm going to have 12 chickens. Well, you don't wind up as many as you think you are. Sometimes our mind, what we come up with, is going to be this. Well, guess what? It don't work that way always. There's different parables in the Bible that talks about different things that will make you stop and think. And there's a lady who once asked me about different ones. And if you're mountain born bred, listen here. One time, fella, he's talking. If a fella ever looks at you and says, well, now you do that again, it normally has something to do with the family. Well, whistle pigs be delivering your mail. Well, you're probably thinking, well, what is a whistle pig? Well, that's what a groundhog is. And a groundhog lives under the ground. And, if you want to look one up, I think the most famous one is at Punxsutawney Phil. He posts they get him out, and if he sees his shadow, well, I guess if he sees his shadow, you got 6 more weeks of bad weather or something to that. Or if you don't see it, well, vice versa. The 6 weeks of bad weather if he sees or don't see it, vice versa. I can't remember right off. But he like I say, he lives underground stuff, and that's the thing that means that people say, well, I don't understand that. Well, where would you be if you're underground? Well, you're going to be 6 feet under. You're probably going to be in a casket in the ground. I mean, those folks are probably going to send you to see St. Peter and shake hands with him. And there's a few more old sayings through the years that come along. But, it's funny because a lot of that stuff's from olden times. Sometimes it don't make sense today because we didn't live back then, or you don't have a reference of any way to understand it. If you didn't grow up during that time or been around any of that stuff, it don't make sense to you. Older folks will, and I think about that sometimes with the parables in the Bible. I think sometimes people miss the gist of it. And sometimes today, I think a lot of it is getting, how would you say, lost in translation, or they are looking, oh, well, we researched this, we done that didn't happen, that wouldn't happen, and well, this because this period, and we understand it better, we know more. I don't always know if that's true or not, folks. I'm not sure if we're as smart as we think we are. And sometimes I'm not sure if you didn't live in that period to understand, be a part of that period, well, maybe it doesn't make sense. Or maybe it might be something that you're afraid it's going to offend people. We need to erase that because that's not right. That ain't the way that could have happened. I don't know. Maybe I'm just an old man. Maybe I'm just old school. Maybe I just want to believe this or that, or that's the way I go. Each person has to find that place in their life. Each person has to feel in their heart the truth of the matter. And that's about all I'll say on that. But look through, read a little bit. Maybe you'll run into some old folks who tell you some good stories from the past, and maybe you cannot even relate. We just talking today about seeing different stuff and things in our past that we can remember. The younger generation have no clue. We live in a world society that one time years ago I heard a preacher man said we live in the Burger King society. Have it your way. Years ago, in the 70s, there was a commercial by Burger King. Have it your way. Special order don't set us. Whatever you want, you just order it. Now, thanks today, that's how we live this old world. This is what we want. This is the way it's supposed to be. This is how it's going to be. And a whole lot of people in this world is starting to find out that ain't the way the world works on you. We just always have an opinion, and especially America. That's the sad part. If we're truthful, we're very spoiled in America. And people are just always, we got to have this, got to have that, got to have this, got to have that. It wasn't that many years ago, but, go back 80, 70, 60, 80, 50 to 80 years ago. Half what you see, people didn't have. People had a whole lot less, but found time to be, I think, a little bit happier. They didn't have it all, but they had more family, I think, around. There's a lot more family interaction. People still helped one another, knew each other's neighbors, knew their names, tried to be there for each other. And simple things, I guess. Sort of like you can be poor by worldly standards, but you can be rich just because of family, friends, and loved ones. You don't have to have all the worldly stuff. I pray that you got a good family, friends, loved ones. And hopefully, if you've done a bunch of stupid stuff in the past, like that old chicken did, and you burnt your toes a few times, you straightened up by the time you get older. Or you're working on it now. But, all I can tell you is look around you and see what's going on around you. Learn to understand, do the best you can. Don't be caught up in the rest of this stuff, folks. Yeah, I know. I got off the topic again. I apologize about that. But anyway, I'll get off of here. I hope it. Maybe in the next few weeks, this here weather will blow through and stuff's starting to green up. We got a lot of stuff starting to bloom here. Of course, it's good for allergies, but maybe I can get outside again and get out of this here stove room, and maybe I'll find a few ridges or places to look around, look out at. Maybe a little bit of scenery, just me out at. That wouldn't take a whole lot. Folks, be good. I hope and pray that wherever you're at, you're having a good time, you're safe, you're happy. Hope you know you're loved, and I always will be. And there's one thing about the good Lord's always listening. Might not have nobody else around, but the good Lord's listening. So take time to talk to him. And as always, please know, I pray the good Lord takes a liking to you, but not too soon. And as always, God say awesome.